1, 2, 3.
"43 years ago, the Indian authorities welcomed a fleeing Dalai Lama at a border post in Tawang, then Nefa, and transported him across the blistering plains to the quiet and cool of Mussoorie in the foothills of the Garhwal Himalayas. His many followers, however, were in for hardships beyond their reckoning. Many watched helplessly as their families fell victim to low-altitude illnesses and other diseases unknown in their land. Others had to work in road gangs to earn a living.
In the first 10 years or so, a state of confusion and feeling miserable due to the loss of our own country, the language barrier, the culture barrier, and the livelihood for resettling.
The Indian government responded to this crisis by accommodating the thousands that followed the Dalai Lama's flight in 1959. Settlements were established in many states such as Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal, Odisha and Karnataka. But early settlers had to cope with dense forests and the fear of wild animals.
Kana sena ye kalte jang sashin chuso pheda mandawa resha mase chen sen da simjen ramande ke kogidu majo hajang ge sembe jobu chung.
Despite the problems, things slowly began to take shape. The Dalai Lama too was shifted to the sleepy hamlet of McLeodganj, 9 kilometers above the town of Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh.
When the government of India indicated eventually we should leave Mussoorie and some other town, hill station, and we very much reluctant to accept that suggestion. And then also we heard the new place, Dharamshala, called Dharamshala, a very heavy monsoon, and very remote. Some of us, even you see, little suspicion, what is the government of India should be thinking? Not only is it change place, but there may be some other reasons. So that time we are very, very reluctant. But then we sent some of my own sort of staff member to visit. Then they return, they say, or the new place, Dharamshala's water is sweeter than Mussoorie's milk. So they are very much praised, this new place. But sometimes that sweet water creates some problem in the stomach also. So that's the sort of story.
4 decades have rolled by and things have changed. But memories still linger. Memories, bitter and sweet. The community has managed to maintain its identity against all odds. The adaptability of the Tibetans has its roots in their unfailing compassion for all sentient beings.
जब हम चाइना से बाकी आया तो हाथ में एक कटोरी भी नहीं था, इस हालत में आया था, खाना पीना तो बहुत दूर की बात। लेकिन हम लोग यहाँ आके बीवी बच्चे लोग सब, बीवी बच्चे हस्बैंड वगैरह सब मेहनत में लग गया था। मेहनत करते करते हम लोग बहुत ही मतलब अपने तरक्की में आ गया। सबसे बड़ा गुण तो ये है कि दलाई लामा जी और उनका आशीर्वाद साथ में है। ऊपर से हम खुद बुद्धिस्ट है, हम कभी आज तक अपनी हाथ से कोई कीड़ा नहीं मारा हमने। मेरे घर में जब शुरू में यहाँ आया था तो ये गांव था बिल्कुल, जब घर बसा तो बिल्कुल चादर का था। हर साल कम से कम 15-20 सांप घर पे निकलता था। लेकिन हमने सांप को पकड़ना, किसी कीमत पर भी उसको पकड़ के छोड़ना है। हमने कभी आज तक सांप छोड़ के कोई कीड़ा भी नहीं मारा। तो ये हम सोचता कि हमारे दिल में जब पाप नहीं है तो हमें कभी दुखी नहीं होगा।
Besides the ordinary populace, the Tibetan administration too needed to be resettled and to transform itself to face the challenges before it. Changing from a traditional system to one with a more modern and democratic face, the government in exile began working to administer various refugee pockets. From supervising work in the settlements to distributing aid among refugees, the new administration had to work hard to establish itself. There were two broad and important areas that had required simultaneous and adequate attention. The demands that flowed from the duty to preserve the unique spiritual and monastic tradition of Tibet and the worldly needs of the people who were in exile. The balancing act has not always been easy.
The basic, outline or the system. Now here, as a refugee community, stateless, otherwise we set up the, administrations, then legislative, then judiciary. So usually we call three pillars of democratic society or system. So that because they are thinking in the long future, so we established these three things. Although among the refugee community, these cannot function fully, but as a system or to learn experience, we establish these things.
While the government in exile is making plans for their future, the younger generation is proving to be no exception to the lure of the West, where they think money and good living comes easy. Well, even Dick Whittington thought the streets of London were paved with gold.
Plan to go abroad. I got 3 relatives there. I don't want to study. I just want to work to earn some dollars.
इंडिया में बैठा है, वो लोग ने कभी विदेश देखा नहीं है। वो लोग ये समझता कि एक विदेश जाने से तो पहाड़ से मतलब जैसे पैसा खुदाई करता है वैसे खोदने के लायक जैसे वहाँ है। उनको ये नहीं मालूम है कि वहाँ जो जाके पैसा भेजता है, जैसे एग्जांपल मेरा भाई गया हो तो मेरा भाई मेरे को बोलेगा भैया जब पैसा की थोड़ा जरूरत पड़ गया बोले तो भाई भेज देता मेरे लिए, जैसे $5,000 $2,000 भेज देता है। वो ये नहीं समझता कि भैया $2,000 वहाँ पे काम करता है तो कम से कम $4,000 का खून भी देता है।
Life there is not so easy or rosy as we think, what we saw here is only the Western tourists coming here, enjoying their life. We thought that life there will be the same as they were enjoying here. But when I went there, they really work very hard, and it's a very tough job and the competition to get a better life there. Second thing is, I was raised in the refugee school in India, and we were taught that we should fight for our independence.
However, it stands to their credit that for a nation that was as closed as theirs, the Tibetans responded to their new circumstances with remarkable ease and adaptability, and wove a fabric that has become an example of enterprise and exertion. They set up handicraft cooperatives and began selling sweaters, shawls, and imported knickknacks on pavements to support themselves. Today, Tibetan markets have become favorite shopping haunts for those on the lookout for imported stuff. Making and selling wood carvings and objects of metal art, and serving up gastronomical delights, families toiled on, regardless of their age and physical condition. As a link to the past, even the link cord or the holy pilgrim's path that goes round Lhasa was not forgotten and replicated in Dharamshala around the Dalai Lama's new palace. Religious reasons apart, it is a perfect place for people to meet and compare notes on the weather and their health. Local gossip is exchanged here as well. going round the Dalai Lama's palace ensures blessings not only for humans, but also for all living beings who tread this holy path. Based in Dharamshala, the voice of Tibet is the enduring symbol of Tibet's war of words.
新闻就播送到这里，请继续收听我台的其他节目。
Broadcast in Chinese and Tibetan, it attempts to counter Chinese propaganda in Tibet. It aims also to reach its people in Tibet, to keep them informed on the latest developments within the diaspora worldwide. While the community fought its battles, the Tibetan government, under its temporal head, took on a responsibility that was not only new and challenging, but difficult as well. The overseeing and rehabilitation of its people across India was not going to be easy. An administration under its monk ruler, forced to adapt to an alien situation, worked ceaselessly to provide its people a semblance of control and security.
We Tibetan refugee community is now one of the, I think, most successful refugee community. In spite many sort of changes or many sort of challenges, in spite of many challenges, I think, generally speaking, Tibetan community as a one ancient nation with rich ancient cultural heritage, I think in spite of all these challenges, all these changes, I think basically we preserve quite well.
Soon the community's success triumphed over its initial sorrow and hardships, and the people got on with the daunting task of building their future. They found places to live in, to settle down, to follow vocations, so that they could earn their livelihood. They tried to preserve and enrich their traditions, and yet to imbibe what was necessary and good in modern civilization. Starting from scratch, they built their settlements, complete with monasteries and religious centers, on the pattern of what they had left behind in Tibet. Today these settlements are a source of pride for the community. They made sincere efforts to establish friendly ties with the people of the host country. Tibetans have borrowed idioms, clothes and language from the new environment. The transference of knowledge and culture has not been one way. The relationship between them has become symbiotic over time. By and large, relations between Indians and Tibetans have been harmonious.
The Tibetans in India has very, very well adjusted with the host nation, and it is absolutely in cohesiveness or in harmony with Indian people, and therefore I don't think there is any shortcoming as far as our adjustment and our what I should say, our cohesiveness with the host nation. There's no problem, and at many times we feel that we almost forgotten that we are out of our own land or out of our own origin.
Our main Dharma with the Buddhist teachings, as well as all the major sciences, the ancient sciences, all came from India. So all our root is from India. All our great masters, they were studied and trained in India, and their gurus are all from India. So of course, India, we always feel special affinity. Yes. We do not feel actually alien or any foreign. We feel actually home.
Feels like home to me because I have never seen Tibet. For me, I was born here, And I am a Tibetan deep down, but I also feel very like this is my home as well, you know. So everything about India is good for me.
If the Tibetans had settled and begun to reap harvests, the Indians too gained from the association with their Tibetan guests. With the Dalai Lama and Buddhism gaining global popularity and funds flowing in from all over the world, visitors to Tibetan areas and Buddhist institutions began to increase. Soon these places became hot destinations for both the casual Dharma traveler as well as the knowledge seeker. Infrastructure in these places improved and opportunity for business enterprise multiplied. And Indians too have benefited from this increasing interest in Buddhism. Curio shops, hotels and travel agencies are some of the initiatives that Indian businessmen have taken. Mr. Manmohan Bedi, a local tour operator in McLeodganj, is one such businessman. Beginning from a single bus a decade ago, his buses today touch most major Tibetan settlements in North India.
I start my first bus August 1993. Our destination that was McLeodganj, Dharamsala to New Delhi. Because our main business concerned with Tibetan camp Majnu Ka Tila. Right now I have near about contract carries fleet about 15 buses. Our main business that depends here at McLeodganj, because all business due to His Holiness is here. 9 kilometers after McLeodganj, Lord Dharamsala, mostly Indian people doing the business there. If His Holiness will leave this place, definitely all the Dharamsala and McLeodganj, they will lose the business.
Business alliances between the two communities slowly drew a cultural and social bonding as well. Today, marriages are cementing these ties further.
In my family, I have a brother-in-law and a sister-in-law, both Indians. One's Tamil. My brother-in-law is Tamil. My sister-in-law is Punjabi.
The community seems not only to have done well economically, but has succeeded in preserving its culture as well. Though the younger generation is not as steeped in tradition as the previous one, it's still rooted in religion and is bound by a love for its homeland. The diaspora in India re-established the renowned monastic universities of Tibet in different parts of India. These institutes foster tantric traditions and teach the craft of religious artifacts and the spiritually inspired forms of art mandalas. The academies have succeeded in continuing the traditions of profundity and learned qualities that the original universities in Tibet were famous for. More than merely asking and answering questions, the Tibetan form of debate is a process for establishing what is irrefutable. What is validly established will be borne out by debate, and what is specious will be revealed and destroyed. Though sometimes things look like they're getting out of hand.
Tibetans have been able to retain their culture to a large extent. Of course, with modernization, people do kind of pick up new things, but to a large extent, we have been able to maintain our culture. We have been able to kind of flourish. Our kids have been able to get like Tibetan language education. They've had access to, also the family bonding is still very strong in India.
When the Tibetans came to India, they perceived the need for a system of education that would meet the specific needs of their children. The Tibetan Children's Village, or TCV as it's popularly known, was initially set up as a school for children in exile. But soon, parents from occupied Tibet began to brave the treacherous snows and other incidental hazards to deposit their children in these schools in India.
There might be from a village in Tibet, or uncle or an some cousin near one who is willing to take or risk taking a group of say 10-15 children, and this guy comes and brings all the children here.
Yet parents seem to bear the separation for a better education for their children.
Well, there are many cases that such children arriving, frostbitten, their legs gone or fingers gone or eyesight gone, or we never know, some of the children must have never made it also, and then, died on the way up in the mountains. So we never know what happens, how much of trouble the children go through.
Most parents head back to Tibet with heavy hearts, knowing that they may never be able to see their children again, but happy in the knowledge that these children would receive education and freedom. 11-year-old Gelik's parents sent him to the TCV when he was just 5, with a nomad from Kham. A journey across treacherous mountain passes saw Tenzin Gelik trapped in a blizzard, where he lost his toes. The loss has not doused his spirit, and he epitomizes the grit that Tibetans have become well known for. Gelik has fought the odds and now wants to become a singer.
An empty street, an empty house, I wonder where they are, who dares to have a song to sing together. Oh no, then oh my love, holding you forever, reaching for the love that seems so far. So I said a little prayer, hope my dreams all of them all, where the skies are blue, to see you once again, my love. I try to walk, I'm holding inside my heart.
For centuries, Tibet has had its own form of medicine, which has been extremely beneficial to its people. With the need to keep in step with changing times, the community has set up modern hospitals. Especially for diseases that require immediate attention, modern medicine is fast catching up. With monastic institutions still exerting influence over its people, exposure to foreign cultures and experiences has not affected the community too drastically as yet. Though exposure to cultures other than that of their host country is causing some concern.
This has advantages as well as the disadvantages. Advantages in a sense that now the Dharma is spreading almost every part of the world. I can say that there are actually now more people reciting Buddhist prayers and mantras than it used to be. But at the same time, as I said, the outside exposure, the outside world's exposure affects the practice, the serious practice. Because the idea of learning the Buddha Dharma is then to practice it, so that we will eliminate our obscurations and finally then to attain the liberation and enlightenment. And this, of course, it has some effects because when you are so much exposed to the other things, then it is like a distraction.
For the last 42 years, I am watching the growing younger generation. I am very closely related with them, and I have saw for certain period of time they are completely westernized. But with passage of time, now they are coming back. They are not lost their ground.
But not all have their feet firmly on the ground. Western influence, a deepening identity crisis, and unemployment are fast leading Tibetan youth towards drug abuse. The situation is becoming grave, with people of all ages turning to a wide range of drugs. Kunfen is a rehabilitation center which provides counseling to such addicts.
I wouldn't say that it is totally dependent on that factor. There are many other contributing factors, but this is one of the factors. out of all these many factors. The other thing is the identity crisis that we have been facing for so long. The community in general has been very rigorously working hard on preserving the so-called identity of the Tibetan people, but still, when one goes out into colleges and looks for a job or things like that in a competitive world, we are denied with every right which the host nation citizens enjoy. Now you see the changing trends in the whole history of substance abuse in Tibetan community, because those days were in the aristocrat families or big merchants, but today you see among school dropouts, unemployed, homeless, many of them, and you see that even in schools for the past 3 years we have seen the changing trend. Now all those volatile substances, glues and all these are coming out in Tibetan schools, not in small numbers but in big numbers.
Challenge and tragedy have always brought out the best in humans, and the Tibetans are no exception. In more respects than one, the history of the arrival of the Tibetan community in India and its achievements has been a saga of courage and an answer to a cruel challenge. The primary factor that has helped the community in meeting this challenge has been the unique personality and leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the tolerance and cooperation from India.
In our university community, I was a member of the standing committee of Association of Indian University. I was vice president and I was president and presiding all over the vice chancellors of the Indian University, and I have told them in my presidential address that it is very strange. I should consider it India's generosity or liberal thinking, or it is some kind of looseness. A foreigner, a refugee, is now presiding the community of Indian Universities vice chancellor.
शुरू में तो जब हम आया था तो इंडियन लोग भी हमसे थोड़ा सा पता नहीं कैसा है, क्योंकि आदमी बिल्कुल तिब्बत से आए हुए जानवर जैसा है, पता नहीं ये लोग खाता क्या है पीता क्या है, सोच के ये लोग भी थोड़ा घबराता होगा, हम लोग भी थोड़ा घबराता था कि ये काला काला आदमी लोग कैसा कैसा निकलेगा करके। अभी धीरे धीरे समझ गया कि हम, और अब 40 साल के आसपास हो गया तो हम भी इंडियन जैसा लगने लगा। इंडियन के बीच में हम घुस जाता तो हमको भी मतलब इंडियन लोग ज्यादा फर्क नहीं महसूस कर सकता कि ये तिब्बती है।
The Tibetan community may have become a part of the Indian mosaic, but its spirit still flies high and glides along in the hope of someday returning to its roost, Tibet.
Refuge,